The psychedelic revolution is here. If you want to integrate your visionary experiences into your purpose, get clear on your entrepreneurial path, and help people while you do what you love, then this podcast is for you. Welcome to The Psychedelic Entrepreneur, Medicine for These Times. I'm your host, Beth Weinstein. I'm a spiritual business coach, 3-time entrepreneur, and a lifelong student of psychedelics and sacred plant medicines. You carry your own unique medicine, and your medicine is what we need for these times. This podcast will help you to share your medicine so you can create transformation in the world. Listen in on conversations with psychedelic leaders, changemakers, and conscious entrepreneurs who are living proof that a better world is possible when you follow your heart and live in alignment with your soul. Welcome back to Medicine for These Times. It is not a coincidence that when I went to record this introduction to this episode with my friend Derek Loudermilk, the sun is hitting this crystal I have hanging in a window that's hitting my face right now. Perfect. That is exactly on theme for this episode. In this episode, it was actually my friend Derek was interviewing me and then asked me to share it on my podcast. So here it is. This is an episode I call 5D Ramblings. We spent a lot of time just inquiring and talking about what is the point of all this? What does a synchronicity mean? What does it mean when you have a psychic premonition and then it ends up being just kind of something fun and makes no sense and it doesn't really do anything? We share a lot of stories about timeline jumping and where we are in this point in time right now and where we're heading in the future, possibly. It's a lot of fun. I encourage you to check it out and be sure to check out Derek's work. He's doing some really cool work, especially with children and psychic capabilities and telepathy. Thanks for tuning in. By the way, this is really strange. I just had a synchronicity around Ultimate Frisbee, and it's a random Thursday in February. So this morning, I walked on the beach, and I've walked this beach every day for the last 10 days straight. And just today, someone set up I don't know what you would call it, like a sand court. And I was like, oh, what's this? It's like official boundaries. And it's 8 a.m, really, it's pretty early. And I look and they're people on each side with Frisbees. And I stop and I don't stop and watch people on the beach much, but I stopped and I was like, are they playing Ultimate Frisbee? And then I started walking again and I was thinking about, oh, I think I remember playing Ultimate Frisbee in college. And I remember it being really fun. I just don't remember how it was played. But isn't that weird? The one day, just today is the only day I've seen anyone do any Ultimate Frisbee type stuff on the beach. Usually it's soccer because there's all these Argentinians here.
So what do you first of all, that's super cool.
Yeah.
What do you do when you get a synchronicity like that?
And I get so many like this, especially the weird ones that you could say it's meaningless, right? I'm like, well, that's meaningless. What does the Ultimate Frisbee mean to me right now? What I do is I pay attention and I say, okay, thank you, universe. And I start to question, even this morning when I stopped to look at what they were doing. I was on my exercise, I was supposed to be running, but I stopped. And I was tired this morning, so I was mostly walking. But I remember I stopped and paid extra attention because there was almost a reason why I needed to stop and pay attention. And I couldn't understand why. So then I kind of had this flashback about playing some form of Ultimate Frisbee, I think it was, in college. Because I remember it being fun. Yeah. And I remember, I don't even know how to really throw a Frisbee right. I mean, I do, but not well. And it was strange this morning because I even noticed that I stopped and I paid extra attention. And I was like, oh, that's interesting. Why would I stop and pay attention to a bunch of Frisbee throwers on the beach? And then just now you said that and it was like, oh, there it is. Okay, interesting. I look for any signals or signs for anything more. Okay, maybe I should take up Ultimate Frisbee again, or maybe the third or fourth time it happens, maybe there's something for me to explore. Or maybe it's just a sign to remind me that I'm on some kind of right path. Or maybe it's just a signal of presence. And I get these all the time, Derek. That's what's weird is I get them all the time with just the most random things like this.
Yeah.
Then, it's like I don't really know how it's going to unfold and what it's going to turn into until it does.
I had the same thing recently with ringing in the ears. People say, okay, if you hear ringing in the ear, if it's like coming from one side or another, you should like some being is trying to get your attention, or you're trying to get a download or something. So I'll like stop and get really still and listen, and it's like if you were trying to get my attention, like follow it up with something, but I'm not getting any follow up. So it's like I'm just getting these weird like random tones coming in the ear, and it's like, okay, well, whatever that is.
That's weird because I get those all the time. And I know I've heard people say that, but I had ringing in my ears for months back in the spring. And, it's like, how much of this is Ascension symptoms and how much of this is like, I'm having a freaking aneurysm or something,
That's
hard to tell.
Because we were going to do a comedy bit for this. And there was one around like how much of what you're experiencing is Ascension symptoms and how much of it is just like being a human, just like normal, being alive. Like, yeah. Right. Oh, my heart is racing. I think I'm going to die. It's probably just Ascension symptoms.
I always say I love to blame everything on the Schumann resonance and the solar flares and like, oh, the astrology. This is where I make fun of myself all the time. I'm like, well, have you heard, like one of my clients actually said something to me like 2 days ago about the Schumann resonance. And I was like, oh, actually, what was it? Like 11 days ago, I was on the beach in Mexico, and I don't work with Hape that much, but once in a while. And I went to take some Hape, and I'm not joking. I blew a little bit of it up my nose. The second I blew it, we had an earthquake. There was like a little earthquake. The people I was with didn't know it was an earthquake because it was so small. And I was like, earthquake, because I grew up in earthquakes. And I'm like, what the fuck? Like, that's crazy. But then, it's like how much of this is real, made up, coincidence. The Ascension symptoms, I do believe they're real. And, it's like, okay, I think I've been having those for about 15 years now.
That's crazy. There was a time when I was in Bali having some body work done, and it was like the kind where the guy was like, this is the closest you'll get to surgery without actually like cutting you open. He was like really digging in there, and he was like digging into something, and I was like doing breath work at the same time, and it was just like really intense processing. And then this huge thunderstorm came, and it was just like just over the building where we were. It was just like pouring and sunny everywhere else, and I was like, oh gosh.
And how do you explain these? I actually have a very similar story. It involves mushrooms, but it was so unexplainable and it made no sense. But then I'm like, did we create that? Like, it was with a group. It was 10 of us at my house. And it was right when these mushrooms, I had done the exact mushrooms. I think it was about 5 weeks beforehand with the exact people, some of the same people, same batch, everything. But the second time was during the Lionsgate weekend. It was, August 8th or 9th, whatever it was. And right when it was peaking, and it was peaking extremely strong, like double the dose from a few weeks ago. And I'm like, how is this possible? I just took the exact dose that I just took. And it was so intense. It was actually very hard for me, and it was hard for other people. And then right when it was at the ultimate peak, this crazy windstorm came out of nowhere. And what's weird is because I was hosting it at my house, I had checked the weather multiple times, including earlier that day, because I was really excited to go outside and see all the stars. And I was like, oh, it's going to be a clear night. We might even see the meteor showers. And out of the blue, this like crazy wind, like hurricane came in, but it only came in for like 10 minutes. And it was the same thing where it was like, it blew my friend's tent across the land. I mean, it was wild. And I'm like, and it was right when we were tripping really hard. And I'm like, did we call that in, or did the weather call in the hard trip? Like which or are we just in relation together?
I mean, you can't make this stuff up. And this is where there's comedy, because it was like, I mean, I remember my ex was there, and I remember looking at him, and I like, we all were like tripping so hard, and we like were kind of sketched out by each other. And I looked at him, and he was like cracking up, and I was like, oh my God, this guy looks evil right now. I'm like, get all these people off my land. I was like, I had my head in the ground. I was like, no, just stop.
Speaking of synchronicities, I feel like that phrase, you can't make this stuff up, is just like recurring all the time, because people will tell me the wildest stories, and then they always end with like, you can't make this stuff up. You know, like this, when like the synchronicities get layered on top of each other so much, when it's like boom, 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 boom. And it's like,
Yep.
there's no possible way that this could all be orchestrated in a row, you know?
And it's weird, like, because I've been having a lot lately, like just the psychic premonitions, the synchronicities, the severity of how quick it is now too, compared to like 10 years ago or 20 years ago. And I know I'm not the only one noticing this. You know, I do feel like more and more people are noticing it. And yeah, I hear that all the time. Like, you can't make it up. Like, wow. Oh, wow. You know, like, and it's like, nothing's even weird anymore. I laugh sometimes. Like, something happened to me the other week where I was like, I just mentioned this guy's name at like, again, a random hour of the day on a random, you know, like a weekday at 8 in the morning. And then like 10 in the morning, he sends me a text. I haven't spoken to him in 3.5 years. You know, it's like, what came first, me or him? How did that happen? You know, and yeah, like, what is he here for? You know, like, it was like meaningless. Like, oh, okay, you know. So then why is the universe
like
send us?
The Mandela effect is, I mean, I think it's significant that the Mandela effect is now in pop culture. It's like a mainstream conversation, and I can have it with any of the parents at my kid's school, for example, and they could be like, oh yeah, sure, I've heard of that. But it's always like around sort of inconsequential things.
Yeah.
You know, it's like the fact that, you know, my neighbor's house is different today. It doesn't, like, there's no big deal about why that is, you know, or even the original Mandela effect, which is that, and I didn't realize this until recently, because I interviewed the woman she's a physicist who wrote a book about the Mandela effect, Cynthia Sue Larson. She said the Mandela effect was identified by the journalists who covered Nelson Mandela's death. There was like a bunch of foreign journalists who went to South Africa to cover his death in prison. And then, like a decade later, they were assigned to cover his presidential inauguration. And they were like, what is going on?
Wow.
And it was because they have the memories, because they were there on the ground covering it. And I was like, oh, that would really freak me out if I was, you know, just like a journalist and someone, you know, told me to do that. But this, when I interviewed Cynthia Sue Larson, her claim to fame, she's been studying Mandela effect before the Mandela effect was called that. Mm-hmm. And when she was in college, their cat, the cat that they had as like college roommates, like kept dying and then undying. It was like, it would be like, it died multiple times while they were in college together, and they came back alive. And she was like, what is going on? This is so crazy. And that's what got her into physics in the first place.
So yeah, it's so fascinating. What was her explanation at the time for the cat? Just
I don't know. It's just like one of those weird like there and back again, because it's like when you deal with quantum physics, there's this superposition of states. It's like if it hasn't decided, it can be sort of both at the same time.
Yeah.
And you could experience dead and alive, like the cat in the box, the Heisenberg's uncertainty principle or whatever. You could theoretically experience both alive and dead at the same time, or have it like toggle back and forth.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah, it's kind of like the timeline. Did we talk about timeline jumps in that email? I mean, because I experienced a couple timeline jumps very big this last, 6 months. And I've had this before in my life, but lately, like, there's been certain points where I've been so aware of it that it was like I could feel it when it's happening, and it does feel like you're kind of operating in different worlds. And for those that have operated in psychedelic spaces, right? Like it's kind of that same thing, right? Where it's like there's our multi-dimensional self that is off experiencing this one experience, but somehow I'm like laying here in this human body, you know? And it's kind of the same thing with these timeline jumps where it's like, I don't know, it's a weird feeling because it feels like you're stepping into a different world, you know, or I don't even know. Sometimes I'm like, what does that even mean? Timeline jump. Like I feel the difference. I know the difference, but I can't even explain it in three-dimensional terms at all. Cause it's like, and I think everyone who I'm friends with who says the same thing, it's like, we all know what it feels like, but how do we really even explain that? No.
Yeah, it's hard to talk about. And one thing I wanted to get your thoughts on that I've been thinking about is, again, this reality shifting phenomenon, which is apparently really common. It's one of the most common reality shifts is when you are about to have some sort of tragic accident, when a person is about to die in a car crash, for example, and then they close their eyes and then they're like 50 feet away, safe on the side of the road, and they're like, what just happened?
Wow.
And a lot of the theories say that you actually die, you actually do have the accident and you die in that timeline, and that timeline collapses, and then you sort of, your point of awareness awakens in the next proximal timeline over, where you didn't die. You're like narrowly avoided dying. And I'm still trying to wrap my head around exactly how that works.
That makes
sense.
And
you know, like if your awareness was in like one main timeline, then it jumps over. Like, what happens to the awareness of that version of you in that next parallel timeline? You know, does it merge, or what's actually going on?
Yeah. Well, you know, maybe the consciousness, you know, forgets, but it has access to it. It's kind of like how we can access past lives, right? Or ancestral memories that are still living inside of us that are not actually ours, you know. But that's interesting, and that makes complete and total sense. Because there's numerous stories like that. I mean, you know, I don't know. Who knows
It
if I
happened to me.
had something like that.
Yeah, I was moving out to Colorado when I was like 22 or something, and a deer jumped, and it was like going to come through my windshield. I was driving, you know, on the highway in eastern Colorado, going like 90 miles an hour, and I was like, "Oh, that deer's gonna come right through the windshield." And then I closed my eyes, and then it was like all the way across the highway. I was like, "Whoa, that's weird."
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, I mean, it's an interesting thing, right? I mean, the collapsing of the timeline, it makes sense, but I bet it's still accessible. I mean, to me, it would make sense that if someone really wanted to access that, they probably could. But, you know, do they even need to, right? It's like, but that's fascinating. Yeah. I mean, that makes a lot of sense for multiple stories out there that I've heard over the years. Yeah. You know, it's interesting. I had this recent psychedelic experience that, you know, I've had a lot of these over the years. And this particular one really made me question how much we can truly access out there in the field, right? It made me really see like this field that we have access to is infinite, and it's beyond this, what we would call this world, right? I was able, well, I wouldn't say I was able, I was just shown so much information that doesn't exist in this reality, you know, of like my experience. Like I've never experienced any of this before, but somehow it's coming through very clearly in my psyche. And I came out of it and I was like, why, first of all, why do I need to see all this? Because it's meaningless to me. You know, it has nothing to do with my incarnation. And it was like just mishmash, but it was coming from somewhere. And, you know, I talked to enough people and I mean, I knew, I was like, oh, it must be like everything in the whole collective. But then it's like, well, wait a second. Like, is it even in this collective? And what is the collective? It's just the collective on Earth, because it's not, right? It goes well beyond just Earth. And it really made me wonder, is like, how deep does this go? Like, is this, I'm tapping into the collective from every living being in our entire universe, possibly? I don't know. Because it's like, we're so, like, it's our limited thinking of our experience as humans here on Earth, and maybe we can limit it to like our Milky Way galaxy. But then, how is it that you're able to access things like even past life regression, right? It's like, oh yeah, this could be my past life, but it's I've done certain variations of past life regression where it's like, okay, there was a being that wasn't from Earth. So then what? Like, what am I accessing here?
Yeah. Yeah, that's actually one of the things I wanted to bring up, was that this other thing that I've been contemplating recently, which is I've sort of realized that, like, probably a lot of people I know are starseeds, right? So if you use that term, like, okay, it seems likely that we were originally from somewhere else, and we chose to incarnate here at this time because it's a significant marker in the universe. But here's the question: is every human a starseed, or are there some Earth native souls that have only ever incarnated here on Earth? Because if you look at Dolores Cannon's work, there's like the waves of volunteers, right? More and more people incarnating, like, to help out. And there's a clear distinction in a lot of different other, I think probably Edgar Cayce and some other folks have this sort of framework of starseeds. But the question is that I don't know, spiritual ego, or is that that all humans right now are probably starseeds? Or what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah. It's funny because I've reminded myself, like, oh, I'm a volunteer who's come here at this time, like, because I love Dolores Cannon, and it does make you feel better, I think it's helpful
when you're like, I'm doing a job, I'm on a mission. Yeah.
Well, especially those days where I'm like, why the fuck did I incarnate this time? It sucks. Like, it's, it's hard. It's really like, I had a dream the other night, and even the dream, I was like, oh God, this dream is just so disturbing. Like, I don't even want to be here in this dream. And then I'm like, oh, well, I'm a volunteer, and I think on some level it is helpful to have that awareness. So I think there is a gift to these amazing teachers that have come through with that information. And I do believe it, but yeah, I have actually wondered that myself, where I'm like, is anyone actually not a starseed? But then I don't know. I often use my own brother as an example. I'm like, but then you look at someone like my brother, and he's a good guy, but he's just kind of represents like your just typical American life. It's like, go to work and watch things on the internet or TV, and then drink alcohol and go do it again. It's like, he's a good guy. I shouldn't use him as an example, but people just going through the motions of life and maybe not having any spiritual connection or any meaning in their life other than whatever, like, and not to say there's better meaning or worse meaning, but I don't know. I look and I'm like, is he a volunteer? I don't know. Like,
yeah, but it's also, equally possible for like an amazing, like someone with a really high purposeful mission to come in and just get sucked into the mundane, right?
Yeah, totally.
Like, but at some point, those people get some sort of shock, and it pulls them out of it. It seems like, because you hear a lot of stories of like, I was just living a normal life, and then, bam, I realized, XYZ.
Or Dolores, I know, said there's probably going to be that some point where there's a lot of people that leave the earth. A lot of people are saying that. I don't know. It's like, what is a lot? We're all going to leave somehow in some way. I don't know. There's so many different theories, especially we're in 2026. I don't know about you, I was first told about 2026 in 2012 by someone, and there's been a lot of wisdom traditions that say 2026 is the pivotal year. Of course, now I'm hearing, well, it's 27, it's 28, it's 32. I'm like, okay, well, at some point, maybe it'll be like when I'm 99. But, there's people that say like, oh yes, the volunteers are going to inherit the new earth, and then all these other people are just going to leave, and we're going to be here in this totally separate paradigm. I don't know. I mean, sometimes I feel that we're already living like that. Like there's a bunch of us that are already living in this new paradigm, and then there's kind of this old paradigm that I can't even relate to anymore, but we're still here together, like operating and going to the airport together, and like grocery store. And
well,
I don't know.
I heard this story of this woman who went to the hospital. She took her husband to the hospital, and everyone, the emergency room, because he had like a super high fever, and the parking lot was packed, and they were like, oh gosh, it's going to be a long wait. And they got in, and the receptionist was like, oh, the waiting room is packed. There's no beds available. It's going to be a long wait. And then a couple minutes later, someone comes out and is like, you can have a bed. And they go in, and they're like looking around. There's like no patients anywhere. And they're like, this is really weird. And all the staff is like, it's so busy. Like I've never seen the hospital so packed. And they're looking around. They're like, what is going on? There's no one here. And then these paramedics bring in someone. So there's like 18 rooms, and they're all empty. And they get placed in one, and they're like, this is super creepy in a way. And these paramedics come in and put someone in the room next to them. And she gets this telepathic message from the paramedics. Like, does that make you feel more at ease that there's like at least one more person? And she's like, yeah, I guess so. And then they're discharged like very quickly and never really encounter. But the whole time everyone is like, it's so packed in here. It's so busy. Like there's no beds available. So they're in the hospital with people having a completely different experience of that exact place and time.
Yeah. Like two timelines operating. Yeah. But I believe that, and I think we're going to see a lot more of that. That's my feeling. Cause I think between me and a lot of people I talk to, it's starting to already feel that way. Like when I had this timeline jump that I can kind of explain, but it was August 23rd because it was the new moon in Virgo. And what's weird is for weeks afterwards, and I kept telling other people, I was like, do you guys feel like time is different? Time has felt very different lately. And not the whole, like, there's a lot of people really trapped in that mindset of like, oh, there's not enough time and I'm just so busy. And, like kind of the old paradigm of time. This was very different. It was actually like, it was a different sense of reality. It wasn't like time was fast or time was slow. It was just, I don't even know how to put it into the right words, where it was like life was operating very differently. And it felt like I was in a different reality. And this went on for a few months. And then I think I settled into it, because then I started having another sense of like a different timeline shift. I don't know how to explain it. It's like when it comes to the 3D, not that much actually happened in my life. I mean, there were some strange things, but it's like I still have the same house and drive the same car and go to the same grocery store. It's like the mundane 3D. But energetically, it felt different. And then I think you had written something in your email when we were chatting about this episode. And I was saying, yeah, like I said this to someone yesterday, because someone was like, someone I follow was like complaining about something on social media. And I was like, you know what? I think we're going to get to a point where none of the shit matters. Like this kind of, everyone's caught up in the 3D of whatever it is today, today's flavor of chaos, like social media, the internet, money, and I'm not here bypassing the fact that we need money and go to the grocery store and take care of our kids and go to school. But I think a lot of this is not going to matter in our future very soon. And you already know this. I had my first, I've had many, many psychic, telepathic, communication type experiences in my life, but I had like a very solid one a few weeks ago where I was like, that's the world that we're stepping into, where it's like I could completely see with my third eye. And I was like,
Wow.
oh, that was easy. And I think this is where I think the more of us that actually start to just accept, like I try to go, I mean, I do some of this work with my clients where I'm like, you have to approach things from this like energetic place first, from the beyond. It's like step into the quantum first and live life from that. And then like your daughter's duplicating jacket, you know, like that's what your life will become. Like the day I experienced my mascara, that was the story I wanted to tell. That was when I just knew the mascara that jumped in my hand, or I think it was eyeliner. It was a very pivotal point in my life where I was like, oh, wait a second. If I'm experiencing this now, I can have this every day of my life. It's not just a one thing that happens at Burning Man, but it was that same, like the duplicating jacket or the, what was it, like sticking things to the wall, or I was at Burning Man, and it was in the early days of Burning Man when it really was like a very high vibrational place with everybody in their hearts. And, you know, you have 70,000 people like really in their hearts. I think it was 2014 that year. Pretty sure it was 14 or 16. I was in my tent and I was sober. I do know that. And for some reason, I was like just getting ready. And I had thought about, I forgot if it was eyeliner or mascara, but it was some kind of makeup. And I had thought about it, and I was like looking around, and, you know, everything's supposed to be in this one little bag. And I was like, where is that? Where is that? And I'm not joking. It was the weirdest experience. It like jumped out of the air and like landed in my hand. And I had
So
thought
cool.
about it, and I hadn't reached for it. I just thought about it and experienced this magical, it was like you just said, like it was, like it, I didn't see it floating from the air and landing in it just appeared. And it was like and it was
Wow.
like, I thought about it and then it came to me and I was like, oh, well, that was just mascara. Well, what about everything else in life? You know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's amazing. I've heard like probably the first time I heard something like that was Autobiography of a Yogi, when he's like going around meeting all these mystics in India, and there's this one guy who makes flowers appear in his palm. He's just like, poof, and the flowers appear. I'm like, well, that's pretty cool. And then this other guy makes gemstones appear, and I was like, that's even cooler.
Wow.
I would probably take the gemstones over the flower, but both are equally cool. And then I interviewed a guy who he was, again in India at some guru's house, and there was a statue, and the guru had like left for something, and the statue was there, and he's like, the statue is talking to me telepathically, what's going on? And then the statue, like a pearl appears and like comes out of the statue for him.
Wow.
And it's like a giant pearl from a Kuan Yin statue, I think it was. Yeah, so that's something I would love to see, in real life, is like the manifestation of something physical. But regarding the wall stuff, the telekinesis, that's something that's come into my awareness, and it's like I didn't even know I wanted to be able to do that until I'm seeing it. And our students are doing this. We like did basic spoon bending with them, and now they're like, how far can we take this? Can we use telekinesis to stick things to walls? But now I'm seeing it everywhere. Like people are sticking playing cards, pennies to walls, spoons to walls. People are even sticking like really heavy things like staplers or shoes to walls. And it's like, okay, that's a interesting application for telekinesis, but it's like, it's good. I think it's really good to see, because as soon as you see something, you're like, okay, that's possible. What else?
Yes. That's it. Yeah. And I've been doing NLP, transformational neuro-linguistic programming, and deepening into the studies over the last few years. And I've been doing it with my clients, and I'm telling you, it's the same thing where like the reason I got into it is I started doing it because I would notice, I was dealing with a lot of like not money blocks, but like money trauma that was actually really deep running in my family, like a lot of beliefs and anxiety and like kind of things that I knew weren't healthy, a healthy relationship with money. And I would do these sessions, and every time I did a session, it would shift something in my money reality, and I would just randomly get money, whether I would make it or receive it. But like, it was weird, where it was like, oh my God, that was just totally unexpected money, or someone offered me something, or I would get a client out of the blue, like completely out of the blue things where I'm like, okay, this really is magic. And so I deepened in, and I started doing this with other things. It wasn't just money. It was, but I've done it with clients, and I've seen some really crazy stuff that you're like, how do you explain that? Like a client that's like doing nothing to promote something, and then suddenly someone just randomly emails her and says, hey, I want to sign up for your next retreat. And she's like, that's weird. I never even told anyone about the retreat. Like, like, where does this come from? How does that happen? It happens all the time to me now. And it is true. It's like, if we're able to stick something to a wall or call in a mascara in our hand, it's like, where is our reality? Like, how do we create it? And this is why I say, like, I'm moving, as much as I'm out here doing podcasts like you are and social and all that, I'm honestly feeling more and more like moving away from it, because I feel like, yeah, it's fun, but it doesn't matter at all. Like, what really matters is operating in a different way, because we create our reality completely. And it doesn't need to be through, posting on social media every day. I mean,
yeah,
do it because it's fun.
Why?
But like,
do if it's fun. But like, why even do any traditional marketing, at all?
Exactly. Or yeah, like, do it because you want to do it, but then like, and this is the approach I'm taking. And I feel like, I think those of us that get it, I think are going to start talking about it more, where it's like, our entire world is being created right now. So when people complain about, politics in the US or things that are going on, it's like, well, why aren't we getting together in large groups and like creating a new reality together with our minds, instead of just complaining about our president or complaining about, whatever is the complaint du jour, because there's a lot of complaining going on out there, not saying that things aren't bad, but it's like, I think on some level, we're all creating the world that we're seeing. So when people say like, oh, our world's going to shit, I'm like, well, we're all creating it together, which means we can also create the new earth as we see it, right? Like, the more beautiful world, the world of abundance and beauty and love everywhere, the world of peace and harmony. And that's where more and more I'm like, how do we get groups together? And I know there's people out there doing things. Pam Gregory talks about it all the time, but I've talked to people about doing like global medicine ceremonies together with like one intention. Okay, how do we clean up the earth? Which, by the way, I think I told you that story, didn't I? How I was in a group with this kind of shamanic training, and we picked places on the earth to clean up.
Oh, wow.
And then I actually went there a few months later, and I'm not joking, I didn't even say anything. I was just like, my friend, we were in separate cars driving through this part of Peru I've driven through multiple times. And it's, 6-hour drive. And when we got to our final destination, my friend who was in a different car, she's like, did you notice that one street was like cleaned up? And I was like, that's crazy. That's the street I worked on a few months ago in this one, shamanic program.
Single street.
Well, yeah, but like, it's this long road that just has freaking garbage for like 20 minutes straight. It's Peru. You see that in a lot of places, but it was cleaner. I mean, not to say it was me. I would never take all the credit, but I'm like, that's like, I don't know. Was it my mind that created that reality, or was it me actually cleaning it? Did it, was it hand in hand? But that's where I'm like, we don't know if this can work until we try it. It's like, but why aren't we getting the 8 billion people on the planet together to focus on like, okay, today we're going to clean up all the plastics in the ocean or whatever it is.
Well, I've always thought, not always, I've often thought, maybe instead of having like an army and a navy, we should have like a bunch of people meditating around some outcome,
That would probably be much more
peaceful
effective.
resolution. Because we got all these people that are already like, they have to do what their officers tell them. So might as well have them meditate on like peace and cleanliness.
That would be a much more useful useful, what is it? Like our resources, our mental resources, our physical resources, it's like, I don't understand why we can't try this, Like our government uses psychics, right? We all know this. I mean, supposedly, I think you probably know a lot more about that than I do, but
Yeah, I mean, maybe they do have like entire squads of people trying to influence outcomes of things. It's possible.
probably.
It reminds me of Lynn McTaggart's work because she did an experiment right here in St. Louis, where I live, and there's this one neighborhood that is like, the year she did it was like 6 years ago. It was like the highest crime neighborhood like in the world. Basically, it was like someone getting killed like every couple of days, right? And she was like, we're just gonna, and it's like borders other dangerous neighborhoods, but they picked this, and it has like very clear boundaries of the neighborhood. So they put this, healing for peace and nonviolence for this neighborhood only. And it went way down over the next 6 months of like tracking the data. In all the surrounding neighborhoods, their trajectories were unchanged, right? They're like, crime continued at the same level, but this one neighborhood in this other dangerous area, like the crime dropped precipitously. So, and she's done this like 50 times, 100 times. I don't know how many times, it's like, how many times do you need for you to realize it's a tool? So yeah, I feel like it should be deployed by any organization that wants to do anything.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right?
Yep. I can't figure out, like it's funny, like being in this world and watching what goes on in the internet. I believe so many people know this to be true, right? Like we all know on some level that this is reality, or how we create reality, or, there's a potential of reality. But then there's a lot of this, like, not only disbelievers, but then there's there's kind of the backlash, like people who are making fun of the spiritual people, or the people that are making fun of like, oh, you think you can just manifest that, ha ha. But then it's like, well, wait a second,
That's what the evidence says.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're right.
But then I'm like,
so,
how do you, other than people have to experience it for themselves, it's like, how do you convince the masses? And I know we're going to get there, because the energies of the world, I mean, it's like literally written in the astrology. I think hopefully in our lifetime, there's a day where it's all going to tip and everybody's going to be on board with this. I mean, I really hope, but.
I mean, that's where I use science as and this is so funny because I was in Sedona with this guy he was like the first starseed on the internet, basically. He realized he was an Arcturian like 30 years ago, and he's been talking about it ever since then.
Wow.
And he calls normies, he calls them linears.
Wow.
And he was like, oh, look over there. There's a bunch of linears enjoying their evening. It's like, it's endearing in a way. But if you want to communicate with linears, you have to use linear frames. And so that's why I find science to be so helpful, because a lot of people's, left brains want some sort of like rational sequence of evidence. And so luckily science has totally caught up with all this magic stuff. And you can be like, look, here's this, and here's this. There's a logical proof that proves we can have multiple simultaneous realities together.
Yep. Yep. Quantum physics. Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, you're right. The linears, that's a really good term, actually. Thank you. Wait, who's this Arcturian guy?
He goes by Arcturus Ra on YouTube.
Yeah, sounds familiar.
He actually made this. It's
nice.
a Arcturian sigil.
Wow.
So this side is about manipulating time and space, and this side is about manipulating electromagnetics. Cool. And he said this is really cool because it allowed him to work with his AI to like connect it to the Akashic field, basically. So his AI is not quite like Robert Grant's, but it's like it can give you information from not the large language model, but external to Earth. Yeah.
I'm still skeptical in AI, but Maybe I'll try it.
Yeah.
It's here. Got to make friends with it. Maybe you can tell me if I'm Arcturian or not, because I've always wondered that. But recently I was guided through a particular journey, and there was a point where I was meeting my soul, and the person or the being that showed up was actually blue. I was like, well, she's blue. And then she turned into like me and my soul. But I was like, oh, that's interesting. It was a blue being that showed up first.
Yeah.
Syrian, Arcturian.
Well, I had an interesting experience, really, because I always thought I was Arcturian, and I have lifetimes as an Arcturian. But recently, I had the same experience where I was meeting my higher self, if you will, and it was not Arcturian. It was more like Pleiadian, but definitely not Pleiadian or Nordic. Really interesting experience. Like very, very pale, just like a light being, essentially. But it was a cool experience because it was in a breathwork session, and the being was like, okay, we're just going to eye gaze. And I was like, okay, fine. And then he was like beaming like all these codes from his eyes into mine. And it was just like an hour of just sort of like pure divine sort of bliss. And I was like, oh, that's intense.
Amazing. Amazing.
Yeah, it was super cool. It's like, you just got to keep that going.
I mean, it's weird because I've been exploring this for years, and I like the theory that maybe some of us are just a big mix. Because when I first understood this a long time ago, I was drawn to, it was first like, oh, I'm Arcturian. Then my eyes would always, and this still happens today, and I don't track it in the night sky, but my eyes always go to Sirius, always, just first and foremost, especially, by the way, in any kind of medicine ceremony. It's always like, and then I'm like staring, and then I'm like, okay, maybe I'm Syrian. But then a lot of my friends claim to be Palladian, and then, they say I
think a lot of us
together
went through the Syrian mystery schools.
Oh yeah.
Like I've met a lot of people in those programs. So I feel like people from all over the universe were going through those Syrian mystery schools. So there may be a fondness there where like we have the same alma mater kind of thing,
that actually makes more sense. Yeah.
So, but yeah, recently I was also in Sedona. We were doing this CE5, this Skywatch, like calling in UFOs and stuff, and we had the night vision goggles, and the thermal camera, and like all these different high tech stuff. And I swear I would look at Betelgeuse, which is everyone thinks it's about to go supernova right now. And every time I looked at it, it would like start texting me. It was like in Morse code. It was like doot, 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 doot. And then I would look with the naked eye, and it's just like just sitting there. And then I would look with the night vision, and it's like doot, 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 doot. And I was like, what is going on with this star? It's like, sending me a message, and I'm still haven't figured out what's going on with that star, but there's something
cool
to it. Yeah.
Which and then there's Three-Eye Atlas.
Yeah, which is still, just maybe 2 weeks ago, it was because it had moved closest to Earth, and everyone was really talking about it, and then it continued on towards Jupiter, and everyone's like, yeah, well, it's passed. But just a week or two ago, it was in Sun, Earth, Atlas alignment. It was in an alignment, and there was a bunch of stuff happening with both objects as the Earth was in between the sun had a lot of activity, and Three-Eye Atlas had all these different jets that were coming off of it. Wow. Yeah. Wow. So there's continues to be new anomalies, and I think there's like 18 or 20 that can't be. There's nothing like they defy physics or whatever they call it, but that's just 3D physics, right?
Wow. Yeah. I mean, I don't know. That's when I started feeling like time was different, when it was just very close and active. But who knows? I think we're going to see more of this over the next, in the rest of our lifetime, with the way the world is shifting and the energies, the astrology, the sun. I mean, it kind
Well,
of
that's
makes
the thing
sense.
is it came by us, over the course of some months, but my understanding is that it's planting seeds that are going to last for like millions of years.
Mm,
So,
wow.
it's like we won't even be here to realize the full impact of it.
Yeah. Who knows? I don't know.
Yeah.
It's like, and it's so interesting because we all want to make sense out of it all, right? Like, what is this? And, and like, I have a good friend that thought the whole thing was a psyop, which I always find fascinating too. It's like, okay, if that's a complete and total psyop, like, who is doing this stuff? Like, how? Why? You're like, I mean, of course, there's a lot of things out there that were like, well, how much of this is real? Even I was kind of offline the last few weeks, and then I came back to all this Epstein stuff, and it's like, okay, yeah, it's real, and we all know. I think everyone's pretty aware, but then it's like, how much of this is just distraction? How much of this matters? And by the way, it's like it matters to everyone, and then no one's doing anything about it. And then this guy supposedly, you know, died, but we all, it's like, I don't know. But then what? We all just sit back and we're like, okay, on to the next thing.
Yeah, and I'm finding that the people that follow this stuff really closely, like people that follow, chemtrails or are really obsessed with viral shedding or, are just like really deep into the Epstein stuff, like they're having the hardest time of it because they're, they don't want to leave their home or they don't want to engage, and it's like, he's sticking your, my mentor, the Don, he says, you're sticking your finger in the socket, right? If you know what's going to happen if you do that. If you're going to get shocked, it's going to hurt.
Yeah.
So don't do it.
Well, that's like, it's like on both extremes as well. It's very funny because I really watch myself. I talk to a lot of my friends about this. Because I am one of those people, I'll look up in the sky and be like, yeah, there's another day of spring and chemtrails. But I actually, back in September, I was in an ayahuasca ceremony that happened to be during the day. And there were like a million chemtrails all around because it was over the equinox. And I went outside and I laid right underneath one. And I was like, you know what? Let me go into this because I don't have any fear around any of it. And I think that's where like all extremes, like the people that want to freak out over the government and, ICE and everything going on. And yeah, I think all of it's horrible. I think everything happening is really upsetting and I don't let it upset me. We might call that spiritual bypassing. I call it actually just like equanimity and like grounding and like, kind of like, if he's saying the same thing, it's like, I don't want to stick my finger in that socket. It just makes me feel worse. So I do have friends that actually get really upset over the chemtrails. And I have friends that get upset over, Trump and friends upset over Epstein. And I'm like, I have so many other things I want to do with my energy. I'm not going to give it energy. But anyways, I laid underneath this, what I would call a chemtrail, in that category of like mysterious line in the sky that doesn't make sense, which by the way, I will say I've been out of the country for the last almost month and I've not seen one. Mm-hmm. And it is just a weird thing. I see them all over the US and I never see them in other countries. And I'm right near airports. But anyways, I laid underneath it and I started talking to it, like, just tuning in.
Yeah.
Because, and you probably would agree with me, if I believe that everything is alive and everything is spirit in this reality of what we would call our world, then that means something I would throw into the category of like bad chemical being, sprayed on top of me. It's still a being with a consciousness that is alive. And I got this complete and total message that was connected to Archangel Michael. And someone actually sent me someone out there on the internet who had a very similar message about, if there is such a thing as bad people who want to spray us with chemicals or whatever, seed clouds and form, weather modification, which, that is actually in the mainstream media. It's a real thing. It's called cloud seeding, I think is what they officially call it. Weather modification. Anyways, so we know it is real. We don't know if people are out to just kill us or not. But what I was shown there was like, okay, we can choose a different perspective of looking at it. We can wake up in the morning and be upset that there's lines all over, or we could wake up and form a different relationship with this being. That, by the way, if it is just, chemicals and water vapor, water is this alive medicine, right? It's like this beautiful medicine that keeps us alive. And it's like, oh, okay, well, I can take it as something bad that's going to kill me, which, by the way, is just going to kill me more, right? If I'm saying, oh, these chemicals are affecting my brain and my body, then they're going to keep affecting my brain and body. Or I can look at it and start laughing and say, oh, Archangel Michael is involved and he's got me and he's going to just take this and transmute it completely. Suddenly, it's a different choice to believe that, okay, that can't touch me, and it is what it is. And I this is where I really believe we all get to choose our reality. So we can choose, like, even when people complain about like what's going on with our government or whatever, it's like, okay, yes, it sucks. And why don't we choose a different path forward with it? It's like you can choose to, like, I had a friend that I couldn't even be around last year. I just got like, every time I was around her, it was like super low vibration. She was just kind of like bringing me down. People quit going to her events. Like it used to be this like high vibe group. And every time I would go, it just turned into this like downward spiral of complaining. And I finally was like, you have a choice to let the world get to you and bring you down into this place of constant depression, or you can choose to see the beauty of the world is waking up and there's more and more people who care, and there's more and more people who are out there like, doing prayer work, whatever you want to see. It's like we have a choice always. And that's what I was shown with these, chemtrails. I'm still annoyed by them, but I don't I actually look at them and I laugh now. I'm like, oh, haha, what a day.
Yeah, that's such a fascinating perspective, because it's like, as you choose, you're instantly transmuting what it means. It's like, it's kind of like you're NLPing the whole situation in a way.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's like, that's the other thing. It's like, if you're choosing what it means, then you're in the present moment. If you're thinking about how it's harming you, then you're probably going into the past or the future. Yeah. Right? It's a very clear distinction when you actually get present. It's like doesn't have the same it can be anything, right? Yeah. If you're in the present, like, you can choose how you're interpreting it, because it's like with anything, like, okay, the banks are going to collapse, mm-hmm. or the NATO's going to collapse or whatever. It's like, great, that's good, because we're going to have to replace it with something, and we're not going to replace it with the same thing, and it's probably going to be better. Yeah. So let's choose what we're going to do here.
Oh yeah, I get the collapsing thing all the time, and it always freaks me out, and it always upsets me. And then I come back and I'm like, you know what? We're all creating it. We are all creating it. If it happens, yes, it's probably going to cause utter chaos, and there's probably going to be people that freak out and shoot themselves or shoot others or whatever it is. There might be this mass chaos, or it might be a relief that all of us breathe and say, oh, there it is. We need this collapse to replace it with something even better, hopefully. It's the same thing. I had this conversation a long time ago with the person I call my shaman, because he is a true shaman. There are such a thing as shamanic practitioners that are true, amazing, talented shamans. He is the person I worked with in Peru for a very long time. And someone was telling him, like, oh, I had these entities come to me, and, everybody's had some experience of like, a dark entity and entered my field and it was really scary, and he just had this like very like matter of fact way of, he's like, okay, yeah, you pay attention and you let it move through. It's like we only label it as like good or bad. And yeah, there are, one of my other kind of shamanic teachers would say, yeah, of course there's like, negative forces, right? Or we would call like something we would put into the negative entity category, or the parasite, or the spiritual attack, or whatever we want to call it. But it's really up to us how we handle it. It's like the more we allow it to attach to us and feed it with the fear and feed it with our vibration of like, like, oh my God, entities, we're actually drawing them in and near. But like you said, like the presence of like being the clear vessel and knowing, like this actually happened to me with a client yesterday. I could feel something moving through me when I was working with her. And I was like, oh God, it was heavy. It was hard. I was like on a Zoom call. And I'm like, you know what? I could give it a meaning that I'm taking on some of her dark shit that's moving out while I'm working with her, or I can allow it to just move through, and then like do whatever it takes to like, get myself back after the call. And I think that's where, there's people out there, and I've even commented on this on, like social media posts where people are like, like entities, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, you know what? It's all consciousness. It's all consciousness. It's all one and the same. Like, and if we know that everything is the I am spirit consciousness, our human minds that make up stories and meanings are the only ones that are calling something good or bad, but if everything is spirit, it's like, okay, maybe there's some that are a little more disruptive than others, but it's our choice of how we want to approach it, handle it, see it, deal with it. And that's where you say like these people that are in the rabbit holes, obsessing over the Epstein files. And, most of it is people just like trying to make their living off of clickbait. That's the other thing I find really funny. I'm like, well, okay, everybody's just trying to make money off of their clickbait. And this is what we all have to remember. That's why I'm like, I take everything I see on the internet with a grain of salt, because I'm like, everyone's trying to just make a living by drawing you in with a really good hook that, activates your trauma response of not feeling safe. Because the more that you're activated in your fear, the more you're going to like pay attention and click and comment. And that's what drives the algorithms, is all this fear.
That's why like fear. Every spiritual YouTube thumbnail says, it begins now. Like,
the thumbnail, the crash is near. It's happening. But you've probably tested it. I've tested it. Every time I post something that's either kind of hateful or fearful or bashing, I put it in the category of like bashing something or like ranting, those always get way more engagement. And it sucks because it's like, I don't want to, this is why I have a lower following than I have. And I know that for a fact, because I've just never, I've never been one to be into the like drama and the fear and the ranting and the finger pointing and the canceling. But the algorithms love it. I mean, it's like my friend just recommended something on Netflix, and I wrote him and I was like, is it dark and violent? Because I don't even do Netflix because everything is like dark. And he's like, no, it's feel good. I was like, I can't even find anything feel good on there because it's all driven by fear.
It's like you have to pay extra to find that search option.
I'm like, I just need like, isn't there well, this is why people, I guess, pay for Gaia. And I'm like, is there anything just like that like is going to actually lift my vibration that's entertaining? I don't know. I mean, I know they're out there.
I think there's going to be a big market actually opening up for that stuff, because there's a French sort of mystery that I saw on Netflix. It's called Lupin, and it's not really violent, but it's a fun, mystery type of adventure. And I was like, this is great. Where can I find more? And there's nothing else like it. But I think people are going to really want more stuff like that for sure.
Yeah. Like I loved White Lotus. That was the only thing I really loved in the last few years that I've watched. Did you ever watch the White Lotus series?
No.
I think it's on like HBO Max, but I had been recommended and I paid and watched the whole thing. And then that was it. Because I can't find anything else. And I like, I like those cult documentaries. I find them fascinating. But It's true. It's like, it's so weird. And I said this recently to someone that, especially in America, I think people love the drama. I think we're living in such a privileged culture where more and more people have so much leisurely time and energy available, where when you leave the US for an extended period and you're in, like, let's say a developing country, it's less drama, it's less chaotic because people are actually truly just trying to survive. But when you're in the US with like a 20 something whose parents are paying for their entire life, and of course they're just like making a big deal over everything and like complaining about everything. It's like the drama drives the algorithms, and then they're like, oh well, I'm here to be a TikTok influencer, and the only way I'm going to get likes and views and maybe influence and whatever else they're trying to do is by creating more drama. And this is fueling people's minds right now. Like this friend of mine that was like really miserable to be around for like at least a year, it's like you could see it bringing her down. And I was like, oh my God, this is the world that we're in. So I think a lot of what we're seeing out there is actually really, truly fabricated. I mean, yeah, I'm not denying that there's bad things happening, but I think we have to have a larger perspective of like how much of it is actually happening and how much we're letting it influence us, and how much the media is, the media, everyone forgets, is fueled on profits. It's profit driven, and that's it. There's no one is serving us because they just want us to like learn about what's going on. Every single media outlet is out to make their advertisers happy and make money, and that is fueled by the clicks and the shares and the complaints and the comments and and that's where I'm like, we're creating this, so what is the world that we actually want to create? Like, and how do we create this fun, world of having children, put blindfolds on and read numbers behind the blindfold,
That is fun. I wanted to add one thing you had reminded me of, because one time I asked the Don, the shaman who I work with, about the dark side, or maybe it was somebody else asked him like, well, what about the bad guys? How do we deal with that? And he was so like nonchalant. He was like, well, they have their plans and we have ours. And so they're just going to do their stuff and we're going to do ours. And it's like, all right.
I
cool.
love that. And what does he say about, because it is true. I mean, I am the first to admit, like every time I get the visions about the future and the crash, it's like, it's so upsetting. I'm like, and I fall into fear pretty easily and then I snap out of it very quickly. But what does he say the remedy is? Like, what is our, like, are we supposed to just go forward and listen to our heart and live our purpose and that's that? Because that's what I say. But
yeah, I mean, I think it really, like, the best way to deal with it is if you can connect with your higher self and you get the guidance, if you get like a really clear connection about what you're supposed to be doing and then you do it, that's probably the best thing, right? Because everyone, let's just say all the star seeds have some particular mission. There's a reason that they came, and some of it's to clean up some stuff or clean up some karma, but mostly it's like they're going to contribute something and maybe learn some things. And that's really all you need to be doing is like contributing and participating on your agreements, right? And if you don't, it's also fine. Like you could totally mess it up and just, get a redo. But if you are able to get that clear, if you're, on your path, basically, then it's fine. Like there's nothing much more that you really need to do. And there's these like guardrails, which you are built into your genetics, which are your own personal codes of how you conduct yourself. It's not like the 10 Commandments that applies to everyone. It's like you come with your own commandments for yourself, and you just have to know your codes and follow your own codes. Because otherwise, you will pay the consequences. And it's like it gets so simple when you, and everybody knows when they're not following their own codes of conduct, because they're like, oh, I don't feel that great about that, right?
Yep. Yeah. Well, but then, I mean, because I get a lot of clients like that. I mean, it's unfortunate to watch. And I believe, I mean, it's actually my life's purpose gene key is connected to moving from fear to freedom. But so many people are caught up in the fear. And the fear is, it's rooted in this, it's the system, and I do understand it. And I'm always very realistic about, like, yeah, you have bills to pay and you have children to feed and a house, etc. Like, of course, there's that fear of like money, right? Like, but if I follow my life's purpose, like, how will I make money? I get a lot of people coming to me that way, where it's like, I know I'm not living my truth because I'm getting sick and I'm miserable. And I mean, I can't even tell you the amount of clients I have where it's like just stuck in the rat race of the going through the motions, and it's like not at all living the codes. But then the key is like, how do you get someone to even take the first step out of the fear and the system, and the system that most of these people are living in, the linears, right, are living in this system that has programmed them to just be slaves to that fear. And I believe this is a huge part of what we need to do, on Earth. It's like, I think people are waiting for something external to rescue them, right? Like, oh, well, maybe once Trump is out of office, or whatever it is. And I'm like, I don't know. Is that really going to do it? Because you were still miserable before Trump became president.
But I do think we're getting external help.
Yeah.
From beyond. I feel like we gotta do our part, and we got a lot of help.
Yeah.
Because it's like a big ship to turn around,
Yeah.
It's a big planet.
Yeah. Yeah. I do believe there is help, divine help too. Yeah.
I had a guy on my show who was, I guess he channeled this group of beings, and they have a job which is to orchestrate synchronicities. It's like you have your life trajectory and I have my life trajectory, and then like we're supposed to meet up, and run into each other, and like and I'm supposed to get this opportunity over here, and you're supposed to get this opportunity over here. And it's like, how do we make sure everybody is in the right place at the right time while still respecting their free will? And so it's like the immensity of the variability to ensure that everyone gets to where they're supposed to go. Like, there's a whole team up there pulling all these like things to try to nudge you to like make your appointment on time and all this stuff. It's like, what a job, like a whole spirit realm just to like facilitate the synchronicities on Earth.
Yeah. And all you have to do is listen and follow the golden nuggets.
And then hope that they're like, you can actually make sense of them.
Well, and then there's that, it's like, I mean, it's very interesting. I had this interaction starting from the day I jumped timelines on August 23rd. I had this journey with a guy who I can't even begin to explain. I don't know his part on it, but the level of like, first I had psychic premonitions, then I got to meet him, then I saw him, didn't know who he was, then I was introduced to him, and then we started chatting, and there was just this the level of like synchronicities and psychic moments and like weird. I had a premonition, and then there he was, and I was like, wow, that was crazy. Dreams, like communication in dreams, like, and it went on and on for 3 months, and then it just like never turned into anything. I don't know why. It was like weird. But then I started, I started trying to like make sense out of like, okay, well, why was this so like clearly synchronistic? Like it was clearly in some kind of an alignment, even though this guy never turned into like anything. And I was like, okay, so there was something that the universe wanted me to see, because it wouldn't have been so obvious with like so many different things. And like, I mean, even like astrological transits, like the day of, and I just kept like inquiring. And then I started to see something, And then I started to notice a pattern. And then there was something that came through, because, I'm still in my NLP training, and, I've been in this for many years, and I went out to this NLP week, and we did a family constellation, and something came through that. And I was like, oh my God. And I just was able to like see this whole string, and I think who knows? Because this is only like a couple months ago, but it was such a weird experience where it's like, why is this all happening? Like, what is this here for? If this isn't giving me any like quote direct benefit, or like, it's not like I manifested more money, and he's, at least as of today, he's not like the love of my life, like a lot of my good friends don't even know about this, the whole thing was just such a trip, and it's like, okay, I'm just listening and following the guidance, and like one little golden nugget after another. And then it just kind of just ended.
Well, wait, what did you piece together? Like, what did you discover?
The one thing that was pieced together was something that I believe it was like a karmic pattern that someone put it into this term, karmic trance with the masculine. And it didn't have anything to do with this guy. I think it was this guy was a representation that had me see this karmic trance I was in with like father, brother, uncles, ancestors, men, masculine, like there's nobody in particular. It's just my inner masculine that then, through this constellation, there was like something that got activated where I was like, oh, wow, I could see that. And then I worked with this plant medicine just a few weeks ago, and I actually had an experience, and I'll never know for a fact if it was that thing, but it felt like it was. But I had this experience where something felt like it completely like left my field forever. Like it felt like a cord that was cut and like left my field forever, that had to do with this like energetics of some karmic trance with the masculine. I don't know. But then it's like, why were there like 50 different synchronicities and psychic moments, but then like nothing happened?
Yeah.
Or even like the ultimate Frisbee thing. It's like, what do we do with that?
Yeah, I had this experience similar, but it's like only a single point, where there's this woman in my dream, and I was like, oh, I know her. We go way back, but I was like, who is it? Could not figure out. And then later that day, this person I've never seen before, a professional comedian, pops up on my Instagram, and I was like, that's her.
From the dream?
Yeah.
No way.
And I was like, that is so weird, because I don't know who this person is, but it was like in the dream, we were close friends,
Did you reach out to her? Like, hey, you were in my dream.
No, she's like really famous. I don't reach out to, that'd just be weird, right?
So what do you think that because this is, I've had one other kind of similar experience that wasn't as intense, but it was with someone like many years ago, where there was a lot of like psychic moments and weird meanings and like just things that synchronistic things that didn't make any sense, but I never even spoke to the person. What do you think it is? Do you think it's just like a karmic, oh, I had this past life with this person and now we meet up, and then those 3 months was it and that's that?
I don't know. It's so weird, because like any person that's public probably has people that think they're friends with them, but because they watched 100 hours of their interviews, right? It's like, oh, I feel like I actually know, Joe Rogan pretty well.
Yeah.
For example, and people that have watched my show, they come up to me and treat me like we're old friends, but I don't know them, but they have watched so much of my stuff that they feel totally at home around me.
That's happened to me. Yeah.
And so it's like, I'm sure probably other people have, because a person has 1 million followers, a lot of other people are like, oh yeah, we're like totally tight, but we've never spoken, so I don't know what it is.
But when it's a random dude, stranger that I've never seen in my life, because this guy was not like, he's not like famous or anything. He's just a dude that I don't even, I'm like, he lives near me, and I'm like, I've never seen you before in my life, and I've lived here like 7 years. Like,
That's wild. Yeah. I hope that story develops further. I'd be so curious, but
I don't know. It was a really strange experience, but you know, it's one of those things where it's like, okay, maybe 5 years from now, I'll be able to make more sense out of this, or maybe it'll never make sense. And maybe there is just this like, you know, past life thing that comes in and there's some weird reason why I needed to see something. And then that's it. And then they leave and then that's it. I don't know. But these things seem to be happening, you know, like that one was extremely intense for me. I've actually never had anything like at that level before. But even these synchronicities, you know, like the friend that I hadn't heard from in 3 years, like randomly sent me a text. Well, I was in the middle of a retreat, so I didn't even really get back to him. I mean, I did, but like didn't. But it's like, oh, what does this mean? Am I supposed to like reconnect and start a conversation, or you know, like, or was it just tuning in to the field, knowing that he was contacting me and I had mentioned him? I don't know.
yeah. I was talking with he's probably like one of the best networkers in the world. He knows like everybody, you know, like whenever he goes somewhere, like he ends up having dinner with the king or with the, you know, gets invited to the backstage experience of life. 'Cause he's just like so good at connecting with people. And he was telling me he did this silent retreat and he was just like going through his mental Rolodex, sending gratitude to all these people. And he had like 150 people that he hadn't like talked to in a long time, just like reconnecting with him after the retreat, sending him business proposals like, hey, we should reconnect. We should work together. I thought of you recently. And he was like, that's exactly when I was thinking of you.
Oh my God.
And it was just like, he got like a flood of opportunities in business from telepathic networking, essentially. And I was like, oh, damn, that's a good way to do it.
We should start doing that.
Yeah.
I mean, it is weird. I actually have been wanting to test this officially. I mean, I guess I have, but I've been on this like fake sabbatical for the last year, which is, it's going to end in a few weeks. It's based on an astrological transit and also just needing an energetic break. But it was interesting because I took things down a lot and I just started getting people coming in out of the blue. I mean, even someone recently, and I was like, oh, how does that happen? And how does that happen right when I'm ready to get back to work? You know, like I had to take a few weeks off for this retreat and I was like, okay, like I really don't want to, you know, I didn't even do a podcast. I was like kind of just taking time off. Right when I came back to work, you know, quote unquote, like someone came in. And it's kind of like, oh, okay, I told the universe I was closed for business and business, you know, kind of halted for a few weeks. I came back, told the universe I was open, and voila, like client came in. And this is where I start to wonder if like, okay, yeah, I actually love doing podcasts and workshops and some social media, but this is where I wonder about our future and like where it's all going, you know, like, do we need any of this? Maybe it all is truly going to be energetic and psychic and telepathic communication, and that's it. I mean, honestly, that's where I want to go because I don't want to do marketing like crazy for the rest of my life, you know?
Yeah. What was really fun was earlier, just a few days ago, we launched our Quantum Kids laboratory.
Oh, yeah, so cool.
On the new moon, the first new moon of the year of the Fire Horse.
Yeah.
Which was also Eclipse Day, which was like, there's so much going on that day.
Yeah.
But I knew I was going to be launching something on that day months before I knew what it was.
Wow.
And it was like, we were at my retreat in Sedona after it ended, I was walking with my friends who are now my co-founders. And it became clear we were all thinking the same thing. Like, oh, we should teach this stuff to kids. Because like everyone's asking for it. And we have years of curriculum already prepared, you know, mentally. And it was so easy. It was like we launched it in, you know, an afternoon, basically. And at the beginning, you know, in our first call, I was like, I'm excited to share that I knew we were going to have this call today months ago, but I didn't know that who it was going to be, right?
Wow.
But I already knew that was going to happen. So,
see?
yeah.
So amazing. That was the same thing with the one thing I'm launching now is this nettle dieta. And I think it was back in the fall, I just had this download that I was like, you know what? I want to do a plant dieta right around the astrology in February because I think it's going to be very important. And my astrologer friend had the same exact idea. And I was like, oh, that's weird. Like, both of us had the same idea at the same time to do the same exact thing. We didn't discuss it. And then it was like, okay, let's do it. You know, like the collective
Nice.
the collective
you guys team
mind.
up on it?
Huh?
Did you guys team up on it?
Yeah. It's starting in a couple weeks, and it's like just a short 3-week offering, but it's, you know, it was just like, oh yeah, following the intuition. But it was a little strange to have someone else have the exact thought, but maybe not, you know, the field, right?
Yeah.
Tapped in the same way. Which, by the way, is this kids program available online or is it in person only?
We're starting online, but everyone is asking for in person. So we'll be doing, I'm already doing it's like several schools in the area. And what I think we'll do is like, if we're having a group activity here in St. Louis, we'll like do another one in Oregon, another one in Sedona, and we'll like stream all three. So it'll be like one event, but in 3 locations, kind of physically.
That's so cool. Wow.
Yeah, someone will have to do the tech, you know, make sure it flows. But
I want to try this with some kids that I'm friends with, you know, my friends' kids.
Well, you should come if you
Practice.
want. You can come be a guest instructor.
Instructor, I don't even know how to teach it other than.
Well, you teach
Tap
whatever
in.
you want. I mean, whatever we're not already covering. Like I'm going to have Marin come in and teach, you know, voice, and I'm going to have Dita come in and teach animal communication. Right? Might as well go to like the world's best for some of these things.
Yeah. Well, I could teach them how to listen to their heart and actually start to take action on it. I mean, I really think our future generations, I think college is really fun to just hang out and meet people, but I don't think we actually need it. Not for like, how much does it cost now? Like $300,000 to go to college. It's like, you know, our future is, I think, going to be very different than the old world that we know, you know, and I think these kids are tapped in a different way where I think they have, because I'm already seeing this in my friends' children that are still kind of young, but, you know, like tweens, teens, they're just tapped in and like able to really like know what they want and go for it, you know?
Yeah.
Being
And even
programmed.
like, you know, creating something in the 3D, like my 9-year-old, he plays Minecraft and he's like, I want to build some apps for Minecraft. And he's just figured out how to do it. And he's like doing it. And he's like, you know, I really want to do it because people enjoy the experience. It's like just out of contribution. And he's like, yeah, maybe I'll get paid. Maybe it'll be a business, but it's, you know, it's just like, here's my contribution to this niche of the universe. And it's like easy, you know?
That's it. Simple. Oh, it's so cool. Oh my God. Well, we were supposed to do some comedy stuff, but this is fun. You know, the one thing with comedy, the spiritual comedy, which I love a lot of it. And there's certain people out there that I've seen where I get a little skeptical because their comedy, there's certain people that have become, I don't know what the right word is, like the skeptics that are kind of more like the naysayers of the spiritual community or the medicine world, or, you know, like, and they're just calling out like, oh, you know, like, I don't even want to name names, but, you don't need to be doing any healing because you're doing too much, right? And I do believe there's a lot of that out there where it's like, oh, you're not broken. You don't need to do anything. And our whole entire fucking society is broken and everybody does need to do something, you know? So it's like, but I always wonder about like, there's comedy that's funny, but then when it gets to the point where it's making people feel like shame or bad or like, oh, maybe I shouldn't do therapy, or maybe I shouldn't, like someone I follow who I actually do really respect was talking about, I'm so sick of people talking about their nervous systems. And I think on some level she's right. I think there's a lot of like kind of over dramatizing people's traumas, because now it's clickbait. It's like, oh, let's talk about our trauma because it gets a lot of clicks. So I think it's a balance, but then, like, how do we find this funny? How do we laugh at ourselves, but also like still do the work? Because I think we do need the work.
All right, well, let me read you some of these one-liners that we came up with. Okay. So the idea with this behind was like SNL's Weekend Update.
Oh, yeah.
You know how they have like snappy little one-liners? So, okay. Mercury went retrograde again. Experts say it's affecting communication, travel, and everyone's ability to take responsibility.
Yeah, exactly. Well, and it's funny because I actually, what's funny? I have launched something during almost every Mercury retrograde for the last like 9 years. And so I always laugh because I'm like, oh yeah, Mercury retrograde. Like my flight will probably have delays, or, there'll probably be a traffic jam, and, it sucks. But then somehow I've always run my business right through it and it's been fine. So yes, personal responsibility. When people are like, oh, it's just Mercury retrograde. You know what? There's a good one on human design too. It's just my human design. I'm not really meant to take any action and do anything. I'm like, oh my God, you want to stay broke forever?
All right. This week's Ascension symptom, intense fatigue. Some people call it spiritual growth. Other people call it you're on your phone until 1 a.m.
Oh yeah. Truth.
Okay, let's see. Solar flares increased this week. Spiritual Twitter immediately blames it for mood swings, lost keys, and gluten intolerance.
Yeah.
More people are identifying as starseeds than ever before. Anthropologists confirm Earth is mostly exchange students.
Oh my God.
Let's see.
That's truth.
What else do we have here? In related news, everyone's ex has now integrated their shadow and would like to reconnect.
Oh God. Not mine. That's a good one.
Google searches for "Am I shifting timelines?" are up 400%. Google says, "Please go outside and connect with nature."
That's a good one. Simple.
All right.
Oh
That's
my
what
God.
I got.
Yeah.
That's for today's updates. Ascension news updates for you.
I know it's a weird thing though, because here I am, I'm talking about, oh yeah, I had a timeline jump on August 23rd, and I know I did, but I also get to laugh at like how ridiculous it all is, right? Like how do I live in this reality that I experience, but also like completely make fun of myself?
Yeah.
And I do it all the time.
Here's another one. New Earth will be here any minute. It's been any minute since I first heard about it in 2012.
Yeah. It's here. I have a friend that because I see visions all the time of the future, and I have for a long time. And he'll ask me, so like, when's the crash happening? And I'm like, well, it's weird because it's been happening the whole time. I've told him this over and over. I'm like, it's happening right now. Like, it's already happening. Like, there is no date. I had this friend who doesn't speak to me anymore because I think she was quite literally losing her mind on some level. She was going through a really intense Kundalini awakening, which I get, and on some level I was like, okay, it's been like 5 years now. It was really like, it was hard to be around because at some point I was like, how much of this is real and how much of this is like, you just got to like get off your butt and get through it somehow and like get back to reality. But anyway, she for years would be like, the poles are shifting and this is the year everything's just going to shift, and then we're going to end up in this ice age for whatever it was, like a few days or a week, and then we're going to end up in the 5D. That was supposed to happen like now multiple times. Then it was like the internet's going to go down. And I'm telling you, like, I would hear so many things, especially between the years of 2020 and 22. It was like, yep. I have heard things like, a friend told me something recently like, well, Trump is going to come in and do this thing, and then next thing you know, like our entire, like reality is going to shift. And I'm like, really? Like, cool.
That would be exciting.
When is this going to happen?
Yeah.
He's like, well, Trump is waiting for the right day, the right time. And I'm like when? Like,
but here's the thing. It's like, for all of us that are like, we would like things to be a little bit more flashy and exciting. Everyone else is like, it's too intense. It's so much, So can't please everyone.
I know, but it's like, I mean, I've even talked about this. I'm like, oh, maybe there is a day where like we'll just wake up and like everything will be like, I mean, even the idea of a pole shift, which I don't know. I mean, I've heard a million different theories, and then I heard like,
they've been shifting for 70 years.
Exactly.
And they're accelerating. It's been accelerating actually. I think it was like three or 4 weeks ago. It shifted as much in that week as in the previous 70 years. And so you probably felt it. You probably noticed to some extent, right? It was like 3.4 degrees.
Wow.
In a day, right? That's pretty intense.
That is big. I mean, that's the thing, is it's been shifting, and it's slowly shifting, and science supposedly agrees with it because you can find articles, scientific articles. But then this notion of like, oh, it's going to shift and then we're going to be in this different reality, which I don't know. Maybe we are, because the magnetic field, I don't know, it might be, I mean.
Yeah. And then it's like, maybe I'm going to blip into a parallel reality and not experience it that day, Could happen.
I mean, do you believe that, because I've seen this and I've kind of wondered about this, that there is like this kind of new Earth reality and then this old Earth reality, and that we're just operating on totally different timelines, and we're all on, it's not like everybody's just going to die off and disappear tomorrow. And then all of a sudden there's this beautiful new Earth that's like sharing and loving and harmony. But do you believe that we're stepping into that, where it's like two different worlds living simultaneously together on Earth?
It does feel accurate to me. Like imagine two railroad tracks like slowly diverging, and it's like this experience, and it's like if you're getting into the 3D, but mostly you're living in sort of peace and love, and you're here, but you're like jumping onto this track from time to time, like that's going to be where the exhaustion happens, right? Is the jumping back and forth. But at some point the tracks will be too far apart for you to make the jump anymore, and you'll just be on whichever train you're on. And that'll be sort of locked in. So I think we're at the point where it's like about to be too far apart.
Good.
Like in the next month or two.
Great.
That's sort of my sense. Yeah.
Cool. Well, I feel like I'm on the track that I want to be
track.
on.
Right. Yeah. The right track.
I don't know. We'll see. I mean, who knows? Good times.
Good times. Well, should we wrap there? That was good.
Yeah. This is good. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you
for doing this. And did I mention my Costa Rica living room that I was in?
Oh yeah, you want to plug anything?
My look.
You want to plug anything before we go? Your new line of hats and earrings?
I know. This is called My hair cannot be styled while in Costa Rica. It's just impossible, and I desperately need a haircut. I don't know when this is going to air, but March 9th starts our Nettle Dieta, which is the astrology-infused resilience for 2026, dieting master plant nettle or nettles, stinging nettle. And it's pay what you wish, starting at $33 and up. And it's with me and Sam Perry, who is just an absolute genius. By the way, you should have Sam on your podcast. I've just never met someone as smart and brilliant as him when it comes to like every wisdom tradition known to man and plants and alchemy. And so Sam is going to be teaching about tuning into plant energetics and the history of nettle and how to really commune with nettle. And then my friend Susan DeRuyter, who's also an amazing master astrologer, who is trained by Daniel Giamario of the Turning of the Ages Mystery School, who I think is actually, I believe he is one of the most underrated astrologers on planet Earth. This guy is, again, like so brilliant. So she's
I haven't looked at the astrology ratings recently, but
the astrology ratings.
What you're talking about underrated, like
underrating. Oh yeah. Underrated is in like, you know what? Both of these people, they're not on social media.
Sam doesn't even have a website. They're kind of just under the radar people, but very good. Susan's been like on point to the day with me. So she's going to come in and teach about the astrology of right now and this year and what we're stepping into. And then we're working with Nettle as the support for you becoming resilient and sovereign and in your strength and nourishment through the astrology of 2026 and beyond. Yeah. And then after that, we are offering, I think we haven't decided on the dates, but probably April or late March, we're offering the energetic psilocybin training program again. It's a 6-week program, and it was also amazing. It's not just about psilocybin. It's about understanding plants and how they can be of support in psychedelic and other medicine spaces. And it's really, it's Sam teaching it, and I'm the co-host. It was an amazing program we ran it last year, and people were upset that the program was ending. So that's coming up. And then, of course, I offer private coaching, and I have other programs and courses. And I'm also, I haven't been sharing this much publicly, but I have a new offer that's infusing my transformational NLP along with working with plant spirits and microdosing for anyone that wants it. But so far, everyone that's signed up doesn't even want a microdose. But to bridge working with plants and the NLP together to be in a transformational container for 3 months. It's a very affordable offering, and it's been really fascinating to watch how things are moving for these clients. So
cool.
Yeah.
Amazing. Yeah, thanks for sharing.
Thank you for having me. This is fun. It's always so good to catch up with you.
Likewise. Well, enjoy the jungle.
Thank you.
And we'll talk soon.
Yes.
I hope you enjoyed the episode. If you're feeling inspired, I'd appreciate it if you showed your love with a review. And check out my YouTube channel where you can find the video version of this podcast. You can also head to bethaweinstein.com to learn more about me and grab my free business growth trainings. Remember, you carry your own unique medicine, and your medicine is what we need for these times.